Welcome back. Well, when we left, we were talking about some resistance in the legal community in terms of developing your skills. I know in the clinical community, at least it's been my experience as a therapist, that I've often been intimidated by the legal community. I'm always afraid I'll be dragged into some sort of nasty thing that I don't know what I'm doing and somehow wind up with a malpractice suit. In terms of you working through that, I don't know if you even had those fears or if I'm completely projecting.
Everybody has those fears.
So as a therapist, I mean, how did you sort of become comfortable with working with the legal system?
I have to give a lot of credit to the group we work with in Santa Clara County. There are 5 women that meet regularly with us once a month, and they are committed to making it work. They've seen the kids that are suffering in the courts. They've seen parents be torn apart unnecessarily. Certainly as a therapist, we have the same motivation. We want to see it work, want to bring this to the community. So I think our shared motivation, our idealism, and these are just unique people. I believe that a collaborative law attorney is a unique kind of attorney.
Okay.
So all by itself, it sets them apart.
Okay. So pretty much what you need to do is get to know the players.
That's right.
And to develop some comfort with that.
That's
Let's
right.
take a closer look at who these players are.
Okay.
The first couple of people on our team. If we could take a look. There. The financial counselor. Financial counselor assists you with the practical and financial aspects of the divorce. And the collaborative legal assistance program. Attorneys with expertise in collaborative law work with a team to resolve legal problems. So we'll take a look at the first two. In terms of financial counselor, what kind of qualifications do these individuals have?
Well, they're very highly qualified. The people we have on our team, we have 2 in the South Bay here and 1 in the East Bay, are very, they have consumer credit backgrounds. They're trained in psychology, so they know how to handle conflict. And the hardest thing I think that people have to talk about, worse than sex, is money.
You bet.
So we often get couples where one is not very empowered again, where one perhaps has very little knowledge of financial transactions and has left it up to the other spouse, or there might be a differential in earnings. So what the financial counselor will do is sit down with them and very concretely take care of what does it look like when we split up? What do we need to do now, currently, to make this work? Because people are scared and they can't think straight.
Yeah.
So the financial counselor helps them think about money and talk about money with each other.
Well, and you know, on one hand, I've seen situations where, somebody feels disempowered and doesn't know the financial situation. I've also seen somebody, out of guilt, give up all of their rights, where even if they know their rights, they feel so badly about initiating the divorce that they just say, here, honey, you take everything. So I guess my hope would be the financial counselor could intervene there, too, and say, let's back up a little bit.
Right.
Well, look at a bigger picture.
And the good part of that is we're on a team.
Yeah.
Because the attorneys, again, are talking with the financial counselor. We're there. Each of the parties has us as a coach, and the kids have a coach. So we have people who are talking and working with each other, and it won't happen. It really doesn't happen like that.
We might also distinguish in divorce. For a long time, people have used CPAs or tax attorneys for specific concrete tax problems. And this has nothing to do with cooperating with each other, not cooperating with each other. There are some things you can't do because of the tax consequences, or should do because of tax consequences. One kind of financial advice, really looking at taxes, never do a marital agreement without having a tax advisor review it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Also, though, the people who, number 1, needed education as to what they had, number 2, needed education, and now how are you going to manage ongoing? We're going to divide up the assets. You're going to have this much. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to live? How are you going to budget? The cases that come in with heavy debt load, and there are certainly plenty of divorces where the problem is not dividing the assets, it's coping with the debt.
That's right.
And they may need to have the bankruptcy advice. But they may also want to try to deal with the debt. They need to have a realistic picture of where they are, and that's the kind of sit down, we're going to talk with you about where you are now and how are you going to function post-divorce.
Yeah, so this is more of long-range planning as opposed to just getting through a crisis.
That's
And
right.
that's the other thing that's striking
That's
me.
right.
So you're really providing long-term skill sets for
We
people.
are.
Okay.
We are.
Let's take a look at the next 2 players here. We have the divorce counselor themselves. They work to help you diffuse highly charged issues and develop co-parenting skills. And then the child counselor, which helps children express their concerns while providing parents information to assist them during transition. So you mentioned your role in the room, but you've also mentioned children having their own counselor or coach.
They do.
Now, how much are they part of this all being in the same room process?
They can be. It will start out with the child having a counselor so that that child can feel free to say whatever is going on for him or her. And the counselor's job there is to really listen and then to give feedback to the parents. This is what's happening for your children during this process. It's easy for parents, even the best of parents, to lose sight of what's going on with their kids.
Absolutely. Well, it's just such an emotionally overwhelming time.
Yes.
You're using all your energy just to cope. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I imagine it also would depend on the age of the child, too. I mean, you probably have counselors who have specialties at different ages
different
of the children.
ages.
Okay.
Well,
That's
as with
right.
anything, there's not a set model. This is how you do it. It's family by family, case by case. Do it as best we can each time and learn from it. So sometimes the child's therapist might be exactly what you would hope the therapist for the child or children, separate. That's their safe place to go. That's what they're doing. Maybe there's something happening there that now we need, with agreement by everybody, to have the parents involved too. But there's always been that tension between child's therapist, a safe place for child, so that person doesn't talk to parents because we don't want to blow the child's feeling of privacy, security, safety. And, you know, it's not easy to figure those things out.
No, no. But I think that, you know, the idea of having the children not get lost in the process is the key.
Absolutely.
Really
The key
Absolutely.
issue here.
Very much.
Now, I have to say, when I look at all of these incredibly talented people on your team, one of the things that a friend of mine immediately jumped to, who has recently been through divorce, is, my God, the fees must be horrible if you have this many trained professionals.
How many was that we
That's
just
right.
had?
We just counted 4 highly trained, educated professionals. So, so that we don't scare off every viewer at this point, what does this look like for people financially?
Our goal is to make it far less expensive than any traditional divorce. One of our reasons for doing this was to make it affordable. We have a very short-term, solution-oriented model where we teach people skills. We train them, as you said, teach them the skills to get through life, which makes the legal process go faster. And the financial person is less expensive than an attorney might be, and giving concrete advice on what to do. So our goal is to make it less expensive and to get people through quickly so it doesn't extend for a number of months or even years as it can.
Okay, because that's true. I would guess then if I were paying all of you individually, conceivably that could really add up more in a sense, depending on where the divorce gets hung up.
And we can't promise, obviously. People always ask, how much is a divorce going to cost? And we always say, there's absolutely no way to know. It depends on how you proceed through it. It only takes one issue to completely tie up the process. One place to get into a battle, and that will do it. Other people can go through very complicated cases relatively inexpensively because they do it efficiently. By and large, lawyers are supposed to tell people anyway, the least efficient, most costly way to spend legal time is to go to court. That is the most expensive, the least efficient. An extremely efficient way to use legal resources is a 4-way meeting where the 4 people sit and say the same thing at the same time, work down a list of issues, start to develop solutions, find what information they need, make assignments, and go off and do it. We can't make that work efficiently, though, without the help from financial folks who've taught people sort of where they are, and the therapists who get them able to talk to each other. It's much cheaper to go to the therapist to be taught to talk to each other than to try to have me try to teach you. Number one, that's not my training. Number two, I have a higher overhead, quite frankly, and that's why my hourly rates are higher. Don't pay me to be a therapist. Go to the therapist. Don't pay me to be a financial planner. Go to the financial planner. Pay me to tell you what the legal issues are and what the legal ramifications are.
Okay, so part of the challenge for the different professionals involved obviously not you, but let's say someone else wanted to do this, would be the struggle around ego, having to do with having to let go of
Ego in the legal community? Oh, stop.
Well, therapists don't
Or
have that
therapists don't have
problem.
any. But let's say you're an attorney. But that whole ego around being all things
Yes.
and having the answers. You know,
Absolutely.
I was talking to an attorney who's taking a class with me, and she was saying that one of the most difficult things, she does family law, for her is the sense sometimes when clients come in, particularly around divorce, they want her to fix everything.
Yes.
You know, while we're
Yes.
at it, fix
Yes.
my relationship
Yes.
with my mother and
Right.
with,
Yes.
you know, my
Yes.
child's school problems,
Yes.
and sort of being able to draw boundaries around that. So in some way, this
It's very
system
important.
automatically would do that boundary setting.
At least it puts a rein on us somewhat. We tend to be problem solvers. Attorneys want to get in and fix things, and that means we tend to think we know the answer. But we like to fix things at our best. That's what we like to do, is fix things. But that also means we tend to sort of take over things that possibly aren't in our realm. So if we have someone else with the training, we say, okay, now let's go talk to Nancy about that.
Okay.
That puts us back where we're supposed to be.
How about you as a therapist? Have you noticed any ego challenges with your colleagues around this?
I think we're focused on making it work. We're focused on our clients. I think the boundary issue for us that's very clear is that we are coaching people through divorce. So we work with other therapists, and they go back to their therapist once they're through the process. So we're very clear
Oh.
that we're not actually doing therapy.
Right.
This is really giving people skills so that they can be successful over in the legal arena and get through the divorce and feel very good, and their children will feel very good about what happens.
Oh, I didn't understand that piece. Okay, so you actually aren't taking them on as clients.
No,
You're part of the
they're
team.
very
Are
temporary
other
for that
therapists
period.
afraid you're going to steal their clients?
Well, until they hear that, they might be.
Oh. Because I know there is some of that. That definitely happens sometimes when we make referrals to other physicians.
Of
Physicians
course.
will frequently wind up treating people that we refer. So
Right.
one of the things that you're very clear about is that's not what we do.
That's not what we do.
Okay.
And if the couple opts out of the collaborative process, we will help them find other people, but we will not continue with them.
How about that?
So there's an incentive, as Johnny mentioned earlier, for people to stay in the process because they get the team stays with them.
We should clarify the incentive means from my end that if the case falls out of the collaborative process, I leave the case also. I don't take it on as a litigation case. And so if they fall out of the collaborative process, Nancy doesn't take them on as a therapy case. I send them to another attorney, she sends them to another therapist. Our focus is this particular process and ways to get through it and get finished. But if it falls apart, then it has to go to somebody else. And that's the incentive. It gives us both an incentive to be serious about, I should not accept a collaborative case unless it looks to me like one that can, in fact, do this settlement process, that they can manage it. I should be sure, or fairly sure, that this case could actually do it.
Because this affects everyone else. We're going to need to close, but this has been very interesting. I do encourage people to come and find you and talk about this. It seems the most sane thing I could think of about this. Thank you for joining us. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to explore internet addiction and seasonal affective disorder. I'm Mary Crocker Cook.